Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Fight Chat Friday from TKD Coach Academy. This week we're looking at the final of the -81 senior males from the recent World Cup in Koper, Slovenia. This one was taken home by Amin Rmadan, and if you'd like to see how the final went and what lessons we can learn from that, stay with us for this one.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 117 of Fight Chat Friday. So this one we got to give a shout out to TKD Techers and Master Johan de Silva, who gave us this video to be able to use some analysis of what Amin does really well. And I think Amin is definitely one of the top guys in ITF right now, pound for pound. He's up there with some of the best guys. Absolutely, and he's doing really well, and he's really kind of taken on his own style, and people are now starting to imitate him and try to see what he does. So we hope to give you some insights today in this video and show you what are some of the key things that he does really well to set him up to get some good solid performances and take away some titles on the way.
Excellent. And so bear with us on this one. The video is definitely taken for Instagram style use. It's in a portrait mode, but I think we can get all of the important details of the match, and more importantly, all of the lessons that we can learn from Amin's style of sparring, the techniques and strategies he uses from this. So his opponent in the final is Stefano Vomiero from Chile, who'd been quite a tough competitor the whole way through, and became quite an interesting final, I think, because it didn't transpire exactly as expected due to, I think, Amin getting a good early start.
Yeah, so we see Amin busy off that front leg to start the match, and then his claim to fame, let's say, is getting to the hands with a nice blitz of his own. But he's very effective off the legs and the hands, which causes him to be a threat on both sides on the attacking front.
We can see even just that the ability to kind of not necessarily carry a very high and threatening front leg, but a long and threatening front leg, and he finds the openings to the body very well.
Yeah, and like he's able to use his spins very effectively too, and he's like threatens between the band-aid and spinning, and then we see here's his trademark blitz, and he's able to come out with a height shot really well.
The little split in rhythm as well there, just giving him a little bit of time. And this particular combination that he's used with the front leg, the back leg, and the spin actually comes up several times in this match, which is interesting because a three technique combination coming up more than once is really unusual to see.
Yeah, he uses it really well in transition. He uses it to step back and create space as well, which allows him to then spin on his good leg. So that's one of the advantages of spinning through and spinning back, that you can step that good leg to the rear side, let's say, so you can spin through on your favorite leg.
For sure. So the testing is kind of a signature feature as well. So that the shortening of the stance, shortening of the distance between the opponents, but maintaining the threat of being able to go to either hands or legs from there, I think is crucial to what Amin does. If it was clear, I would say, for a stablemate for Annie Strictly, where he's going to go to hands, it makes it even, as difficult as it is to deal with, it makes it a little bit more predictable, where Amin can just as easily go to legs, and it makes it a bit more difficult to expect the hands.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see the scoreboard here as well. We don't have that luxury, unfortunately. Sure. But like Stefano's actually doing a good job as well. He's solid. Like he has that good, strong front leg. He's busy on the hands when he can. It's just that like Amin at the moment seems to be at a different level, just in terms of his timing and his understanding of the shots that are going to come through, to be able to get to his A game himself, and just everybody else then has to kind of react to him.
Which is always a good place to be. If you're the one that's acting and the other person's reacting, it's always a very nice place to be. Oh, very nice.
This is a lovely shot. We'll get into detail in this one later on, but sure, it's a great shot to be able to, his defensive psychic gets spoiled almost, and then he's able to pull out that shot, which is very nice. He gets a bit greedy then, and a couple of crazy shots in sequence, one after the other, loses balance, but yeah, why not?
Very uncharacteristic actually of Amin to have a high warning count, but in this one he does actually do a few things that are a little bit uncharacteristic for him.
He's even giving a giggle there himself. He's playing, he's having fun.
He's enjoying his moment in the spotlight.
Yeah, so I think he's quite comfortable here now, but like Stefano's still trying to get the basics done, squeeze the pressure off that front leg, build and try to get the hands. but Amin is just able to get between those gaps really well, whether it's the hands that are coming through to counter or the legs. He's able to do both really well, and he's just as comfortable with both, which is a big sign here. That's been true again. He's able to pull that out when you're not expecting it, which is a great shot.
I do think this is something that he's himself decided to put a bit of a test on for this competition, because there's been a number of shots that he's used to lead into it, mostly that back leg turning kick, but also the shot with the hands to the body, which kind of lead him into that reverse turning kick. And I think he's thrown more in this event than he would have in previous events. So it's always nice to see someone who is at the very much at the top level in their division, trying to add something new and add a new threat into their game as well.
Yeah, and like when you actually step through to close distance, sometimes it becomes a shot naturally. You can see it there. He's able to use it really well on the attacking side, which is very rare.
Yeah.
And he's landed this multiple times. We've even seen him in Ireland 2017, and that's a long time ago now, and he was able to get that shot in the final of team sparring too. So he's able to pull off some nice crazy shots when you're not expecting them.
Yeah, but it is one of those things where he could stick, as many fighters would, to the things that work for him all the time. That front leg shifting mostly to the body, and occasionally using that trampoline effect to bring it, threaten the body, drop it down and bring it over the blindside shoulder, mixing that with his blitz, and then looking at the defensive side kick or back kick, or the combination of the two, for when he's got his opponent pressured and he decides to give ground, and that's kind of his bread and butter of what's made him effective and picking up his scores most of the way. But when you're looking to add to that, to find something that expands your game, solves a problem against an opponent, maybe you don't even have that opponent yet. Maybe that person hasn't presented themselves yet. But when you're working to innovate, it just makes them a little bit harder to solve. And I mean, we have the luxury, if you want to call it that, of watching an awful lot of matches, in the preparation for these episodes. And you can kind of get into an almost a fugue state where you're looking at the matches and you go, this is all figured out. They're looking very ordinary now after a while, because you've been watching, one match again and again and again, and you're starting to predict and what people are going to do. But you can't study everybody like that, and you can't for most people that isn't a reasonable thing to do anyway. But when you do that, it becomes extra important to be able to innovate something, so that the information that we have on Amin is now out of date when we go into the next tournament, because we don't know what he's been training, what he's testing, what he's hoping to bring into play in the next one. So when someone changes it by 5 or 6%, it's massive, because the game plan now has a variable in it they haven't accounted for.
Couple of things on that. Number one, he's training very often, so eventually training's going to get stale if you're not trying to innovate and get new things involved.
Really good point.
Second of all, he's always the guy that's there in the highlight reels, and everyone's taking videos of him these days, himself, Vitaly and a few others. So obviously he understands that as well, that he needs to innovate. And then also on the other side of that, it's easy when you can see all the videos, and for us, slowing it down in slow motion, breaking it down. Oops. But then on the other side of that, you got the whole idea of we're having a bit of a malfunction.
We're having a malfunction. Don't worry, we'll get you back in here, and we'll get it all figured out. We'll get the extra names in there, and we'll even change names. It's fun how this happens every now and again. But look, Christmas.
But yeah, as I was saying, it's different completely when you're in the mats, in there on the other side of that, because it's the feeling that you're busy worried about getting kicked in the head and getting punched. So it's hard for you then to actually think of these things and notice the things that we're highlighting when you slow it down. Yeah. But when you're in there, it's different. It's very easy from the outset. You can see we can solve that problem. It's not so complicated. Very good fighter, but maybe we can beat him here, and here. But when you're standing across from somebody who has that very exceptional level of timing, distance, etc., it's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, when you're eyeball to eyeball and you're feeling the pressure, it's another game.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at a few of these key takeaways. So
there's a couple of things I think, Adrian, that makes him quite unique. And there's actually one or two things that I've never noticed before until I slowed it down. This is one of them here, of how he lifts his leg very extended, let's say, in a long stance. So this first lift is quite a big extension. But now watch how much he pulls. See this? Look how much he pulls his back leg in under now, and he has complete center of gravity under him again, which allows him to get a lot of distance on his second shot. And that's why you can see him landing that front leg so often, I think. It's not something that I've noticed before, but he's able to adjust the stance in transition so well. And it's not something that you can notice, just like I said earlier, when you're fighting him, because you're not looking at his feet or just looking at one part of his body. But the fact that he's able to lift with that big, huge extension, keep the hand in place so he's still protected like there for any counters, and then shorten that back leg in, he knows he's not going for that first side kick. And I think that's a big mistake people make. They go for that first one, but he knows in his head he's not going for that first. It's the second, third, or maybe even fourth.
And there's a few things in that. As you said, you're going to fixate on the front leg because that's the one that's coming at you and presenting the threat. So it's very hard to kind of, in the moment, see what the back leg is doing and what's there. But the key thing is he will use the threat of the hands to create distance. So his opponents are going to be a little happier being a bit further away from him. So when he creates that longer distance, then he has the opportunity to do that long lift. Whereas if his opponent was happy to sit in a closer distance and create pressure, that long lift goes away, and the front leg would be vulnerable to a direct counter. But the distance is too big for a direct counter, when this starts. So I think that's kind of we can see it from here. There's no direct counter when you're that far back. You just be too far away.
If Stefano steps in here on that first lift because of the distance, as you said, he's going to get hit with that first kick. So you don't actually... Exactly. So you don't actually have a nice direct counter. The only option you have is try timing the drop of the kick between them. But then because his distance has changed, it's very hard to read that. So it is a very, very good way of setting up that front lead leg side kick, and even to link it up with other shots like we see there, the hacks, etc.
Absolutely. So let's have a look at another one, and a bit of a signature shot now for Amin at this stage.
Yeah, and why I like this one is because his defensive side kick, I don't know whether he does this on purpose or not, but it looks like it gets like crammed and trapped, but then that naturally allows for that turn of the body, and it opens up that big space for the back kick. And when you link them together by not dropping the side kick first, the timing is actually spot on. Because the first one, they're going to be covering their body like we see Stefano do here, which is a natural thing to do. But then that opens up the back one because he's not going to just keep running. He's going to try punch you, which means his hands are high, which means his body is exposed. So it's a very, very nice linking up shot. If you're whether it's too slow, whether you get the distance wrong, the timing wrong on the defensive side kick, or whether, I don't know, for me, probably Amin probably sets this up purposefully.
He tries it often enough and is successful with it often enough that
exactly.
the feeling would be, that is the shot that he's actually looking for. And we consider this to be a percentage shot in ITF. So you might get the back kick, you might get the side kick, you might not get either, or you might get both. But you're putting a chance out there to say, hey, I might have a go at 4 points here. Now in this case, it's a 2-pointer for the back kick probably, but the big thing is
the first one's too low anyway.
Yeah, from where the referee is, he's not going to see that. So
no, but like I didn't even notice it in normal time.
No, not at all.
Yeah, like there it looks like, oh, that's beauty. He's after getting the two of those on the body. But yeah, it's only when you slow it down, you don't notice it until then.
For sure. So some interesting stuff here as well in terms of how this has been set up. And it's, I think there's some really, really nice things in terms of the change of distance and the split rhythm and the heights. So yeah, very, very interesting.
Yeah. Okay, first thing, I think let's look at the lead leg. So let's look how close both of their front legs are. So as we said here, very close, back very close. And that's what he does, but although his feet stay close, it looks like his upper body has a big distance in the gap. So his feet are still close enough for him to be able to attack and be very close, but the deception is his upper body looks like it's very far away. So it's like, okay, it's not much of a threat, but it actually is a big threat because he's actually much closer than you think.
That's it. And there's a few things that combine into that. Carrying the hands low is one, so his front hand is by his knee. It's not presenting as a threat. The head still seems very far away, but it's a quick lift, and the front hand was never really the threat there. And as we'll see in another clip, he kind of uses it to almost trap the opponent's front hand guard so that it can present itself. There's even a few little things in terms of like the fact that it's a hop rather than a running blitz, so that helps develop the distance for the turning kick that follows. And what I always love with this, he gets his front foot outside his opponent's front foot, which leaves him in a very good position for his own punching, makes it harder for his opponent to get a decent punch back on. So even if an exchange does develop with hands, it's very hard to bring a strong backhand in there if you're in Vomiero's position. Because as Amin comes in here, he's well outside that front foot.
His head's not on that line, yeah.
Yeah, there's a bump, split rhythm, and then we can take the kick to the head. So, there's a lot of good things happening in that particular exchange.
Yeah, and we can see where he lifts his hand as well, because his hand is low, then he lifts a little bit here, and now it's higher, and now the entry is actually much easier. So that's where a lot of people think, they see the high-level guys carrying their hands low, but there's a purpose to it, and there's a right time to lift your hand high. And we see Amin is a genius at it, because on the first clip we see him lifted on his side kicks for entry for defensive purposes, and then here we see him lifted on the entry for hands to get to the hands quicker, but he does it at the right moment.
For sure. Let's have a look at the another example of that, trapping the lead hand and the distance that you can get to close the blitz, because it's almost not a blitz at that stage. It's so close.
No. Look at this. It's like a back fist on his glove. It's like he tags his glove. And now all that line on Romero's left side is open. There's a clear entry there that nothing is protecting Romero. That Amin, all he has to do is just make an easy punch to the head, get the bump, create some momentum, and then all from there, very clear score. But in real time, we'll see it fly back here in real time again. Yeah. You don't notice this. So this is a real subtle thing.
It's just a back fist that misses.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like, he's after missing his front hand. But it's not. He's actually using a back fist to trap the front hand. So it's very, very clever. And I think this is something they use in point fighting in WACO. Desi Leonard from Ireland has used that before for a couple of years, but very, very clever. And to be able to use that, you don't even notice it in real time. It's a genius shot.
Yeah, no, it really is exceptional. And fun to find those, the little nuggets. But when you put them together, any one of those things is quite a nice technical thing to do. But when you put that with the correct rhythm, the correct breaking of rhythm as well, and that timing and distance, it becomes something a little bit more exceptional.
Yeah, definitely. High-level guy, and the amount of training he's doing, the amount of competing he's doing, it's no wonder that he's getting the results he's getting.
Yeah. Absolutely. So hopefully everybody's enjoyed that and maybe taken something that they can go and implement into their training, or try to implement into their training from what Amin's been doing there. Particularly, for me, I love the control and the change of distance. I love the deception, the disguise as the distance is changing, and the setup and the entry and execution of those blitzes in particular, really, really impresses me. And there'd be elements of that I would definitely be encouraging students to learn from and to practice. And I think it's always more important that you take the principles rather than the specific way Amin stands or moves, or very often people get taken up with the cosmetics of it and what it looks like, rather than the principles that are being applied. So he has his own style, his own flair, his own way of doing it, but the principles I think underlying it are the most important part.
Yeah, definitely. And make sure as well you check out TKD Techers. So thanks again to Master De Silva for giving us that video to use. And also make sure as well you let us know if you like this new little format with just the one fight and breaking it down in a little bit more detail, or if you like the old style that we did. So keep us informed which way it works best, and we'll try to improve the channel so you enjoy every Fight Chat Friday episode we have.
Excellent. See you next week.